Storytelling can be a powerful weapon against one of the biggest challenges the banking and financial industry faces today, cyber attacks. It's the people-focused aspect of banks that generates stories that can be told by leaders to inspire customers and employees to get involved in banks' cybersecurity campaigns. And there's no question they need the help. In 2023, finance and insurance organizations globally experienced 566 breaches. That led to more than 254 million leaked records. And those leaks created costly operational disruptions, damaged reputations, created legal and regulatory conundrums, among other dilemmas. But what's perhaps most troublesome for the industry is that cybersecurity warnings today, to some extent, have become just part of all the other noise out there. You can have the world's greatest technical controls in place, but if people don't follow policies and security practices, well, the whole system collapses. Stories, when they are told well, help you reach your target audience by arousing the listener emotionally. Our brains tend to regard the well-told story structure as unpredictable. And by contrast, the brain tends to see plain old facts and figures lumped together in a list as predictable. This is why people perk up and remember the message far longer when they hear stories. But they shrug or yawn when they hear dry academic or technical lectures on the importance of following best practices to prevent cyber theft, even when it's as vital as never giving your password to anyone or using strong and different passwords or only downloading from and transacting with reputable sites, and other tips we've all heard thousands of times. The story of Sarah, a young banker who I worked with, for instance, it gets listeners engaged far more effectively than any lecture or policy announcement. Here's how it goes. Sarah is working at her desk one day when an email pops up in her inbox. Now, at first glance, this seems innocuous. It looks like a routine message from a trusted source. But as Sarah reads on, something about this email seems off. There's a troubling, subtle discrepancy in the sender's address. What's more, the tone of the message is just a little too urgent. So, suspecting the email is a fake, Sarah holds off on clicking on the link embedded in the email, and instead she reaches out to her bank's cybersecurity team to report it. And after telling them what she knows, they ask her to forward the email to them for investigation. And ultimately, Sarah's proven right. The email was a fake. It concealed a phishing attempt by cybercriminals who sought to infiltrate the bank's systems and steal its sensitive information. And so, in this way, Sarah protected her employer's devices and networks from unauthorized access. But just imagine the service she did for the unseen customer. Picture them waking up the next day to discover that their account has been drained or their identity stolen or their financial stability shattered. They'd be consumed by panic and frustration. And just imagine how her coworkers would be grappling with the fallout of a cyber attack. They could be left powerless to serve clients and to protect their livelihoods. To drive home a powerful pro-cyber awareness message, you must make your stories adhere to these principles. Your story must be strategic, but it must be human. Even as your goal is to get your audience to join the battle against cybercrime, your stories must show empathy. They must reflect the understanding that through striving to be vigilant, as difficult as it can be sometime, we can form an allied front against hackers. Stories must also arouse the listener emotionally. That's how you're going to get them to buy into your call for action. Your stories must recount relatable situations and include characters who have something at stake. In this case, keeping cybercriminals from invading the bank's networks. Stories must have the ability to hold interest for as long as you need to get the point across. The storyteller should have a sense of how to structure a story so that it gets interest from the get-go, builds anticipation, and then delivers a powerful takeaway that sticks in the listener's mind. Your stories must be told with sincerity and reveal an earnest intention to educate the listener. Remember, people are inundated with information today, and unless they feel that what you're saying matters to them, they won't buy into what you're advocating that they do, which is developing cyber awareness. And finally, your stories must leave the listener feeling they have no choice but to follow the storyteller's directions. You have to put the facts in front of them so they can't help seeing they have a personal responsibility as well as a business duty to follow your lead. Friends, people can be the weak link in banks' efforts to protect against cybercrime. But when we tap into their stories, they become a resource, not just for overcoming a major challenge to individual banks, but for warding off a pernicious threat to the entire banking and financial industry itself globally.